Okay, I've just begun the recording. And Josh, I think I'd like you to put or Joel, one of you to put in the chat, put the link to the agenda. And then I'll tell everybody to go to the chat to find that.
I got it.
Thanks, Josh.
Okay, everybody, welcome to this webinar. I'm actually super excited to do this because sight reading is a passion of mine. Not that I was a good sight reader, but in fact, it was a passion of mine because I was the opposite of a good sight reader. When I started my doctorate, I was probably reading at a level 400, which was horrendous. And I hid it from every one of my professors. Like, I don't know how I hid it so long that they didn't find out I couldn't sight read. I ended up losing a scholarship at one university I was at and went to another university. But because I struggled so much with sight reading, I wanted my students to actually not struggle so much. And I found one of the biggest problems was there was no way to test how good people were at sight reading. So I remember going to a conference and I asked the teachers there, I said, who is a good sight reader? And a bunch of hands went up. And I said, all right, now who's a bad sight reader? And a bunch of hands went up. And like, who's a middle sight reader? Some other hands went up. And it was ironic because some of the people who said they were really bad were better than the ones who said they were really good. So it was so subjective. Like, it was like, how good are you? And so there was nothing like that. And so that's when we came up with the idea of taking a sight reading test that wasn't subjective. I want to go ahead and start this thing off with a video, and then we're going to have a quick discussion with Joel about his experience on him going through a program with sight reading when he was doing his music ed major. I also want to share another couple of experiences with you. So let me just share my screen and start this video.
Tens of thousands of college students are currently enrolled in class piano in order to prepare for their musical journey after college. John wants to be a concert pianist. Julie plans to teach high school band, and Mark is a chemistry major who loves music and wants to play piano for his friends and family. All three of these students have one thing in common. They don't know it yet, but in the real world, if they don't improve their ability to read music at the piano, they will be run over by a harsh reality. You see, Julie's current sight reading score is a 411. Unaware that her future teaching job will also require her to accompany the choir, Julie will need to be able to read at a 600 or higher. John is working towards a master's degree in piano performance. He doesn't realize that if he is not reading at a minimum of 900, he will likely be turned away for the graduate program of his choice. Mark is already beginning to realize that he is not learning to read well enough to play his favorite songs. If Julie, John, and Mark could just improve their sight reading SASR score.
Wait a minute, what's a SASR score?
The SASR is the standard assessment of sight reading. Here's how it works. First, students start a computerized sight reading test that includes thousands of diverse sight reading exercises. A computer, internet connection, and a MIDI-enabled piano or keyboard is all you will need. As students play the music on screen, the SASR determines how accurately the student has played notes and rhythms. The test intelligently finds exercises that are near the student's reading ability and uses various score results to generate the student's SASR score. Students have 20 seconds to preview each exercise before testing. After playing an exercise, students will see an assessment of their performance. The test concludes after the student scores below 80% for the third time. So why do you need the SASR in your program? The SASR is already being used in universities and piano studios around the world. You see, giving sight reading assessments is difficult and time-consuming, and there has never been a clear way to give an accurate and non-subjective sight reading test before. The SASR eliminates these problems and uses little to none of your valuable class time once it's set up. It also shows students and teachers their sight reading progress over time, helping them to set goals and benchmarks. Perhaps most importantly, however, is that the SASR is also an amazing sight reading practice tool in disguise. Students who take the SASR more than once per week have shown tremendous improvement in their sight reading ability in as little as 28 days. There's no limit to how much time students can spend practicing music in the SASR, giving them an amazing resource of sight reading practice material. Months later, Julie, John, and Mark are now regularly taking the SASR and can see how far their progress has come and how far away they are from their sight reading goals. Their teachers are relieved to know that they can easily find out how each student is progressing in their reading and quickly identify problems. Even though none of these students know exactly what the future holds for their musical careers, they feel much more comfortable about knowing where they stand and see a clear path to getting what they want. Have your students take the SASR today for free and see what the future of sight reading practice and assessment looks like. Visit www.sightreadingtest.com for more information.
All right. That to me is like such a fun video because, well, I'd like to thank Joel for making that. Josh, can you introduce Joel really quickly?
Yeah, let me spotlight him for you.
Okay.
All right, here he is.
All right. So Joel, welcome on today. We're excited to hear some of your stories about your experience as you were going through college, I think as a saxophone major. So you had to take piano proficiency and learned lots of scales and chords. A lot of times you probably didn't tell your professor how you felt about the program. You just wanted to get it done so you could go get a job in teaching music. Today, like, I want to make sure that we don't, that we let private piano teachers know and university teachers know that this session, we're going to be talking about both of your worlds. Why is sight reading important for university teachers who are teaching both music ed majors and class piano, and also your piano performance majors, and also those of you who are teaching private lessons? And what are the difficulties in teaching sight reading, and how the SASR is so, like, changes everything. It changes the game. So Joel.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron. My experience was that I was a saxophonist in college, and so non-piano major, right? And I come into our program needing to pass all of the piano proficiency stuff that you get. And there was, the 4 semesters of that. And then, of course, the piano proficiency exam, which, of course, as most of you may know, it has a very strong emphasis on your scales, arpeggios, cadences, and things like that. And so going through that, of course, was a bit of a challenge as a non-pianist, but, was able to get through it. And then I graduate and go to my first teaching job, which was at a high school. And again, I'm a band guy, jazz band, marching band, concert band. And the very week before school was starting, my principal came to me and said, "Oh, by the way, we also want you to teach choir." So this was a bit of a shock, right? And the very next question my principal asked me is, he said, "You can play piano, right?" And my first thought was, well, I passed the piano proficiency exam. And that's what I told him. I said, yeah, we take that. But in my head, I'm thinking, I can't accompany this choir, but because even everything that I went through in that college course to learn to play piano didn't necessarily translate over into probably the most practical skill of all in piano, especially if you are a non-performing pianist, is reading. And I think that was one of the first moments after I graduated college that I thought, I thought my degree was going to prepare me for everything in the real world. And that was my first taste of it. It didn't, to be honest, not everything I was expecting. And so that was something that I had to come to terms with. And so that was probably one of the things that really got me thinking about, why is it that we avoid teaching reading not only in private studios, but even in universities so much. And, Aaron and I have had a lot of conversations about this since the SASR had come around, and we've come to believe that one of the main reasons for that is because sight reading has always been a very difficult thing to measure. It's hard to quantify. How well do you read, piano? How well can you sight read in different levels and so forth? And the SASR is really the first tool, that's the acronym, right? We call it the Standard Assessment of Sight Reading. It's the first tool ever that really gives you a way to measure sight reading, and not only measure where you at, but measure your progress over time. So that has become a really powerful aspect of it. And then Aaron was just telling me this story the other day about a college student who'd come to a conference and played, and maybe you could share that really quick, Aaron.
It was such an interesting conference. We went to a MENC conference, which is a lot of like the public schools and a lot of the universities will attend this. And I happen to know that one of the college professors at this one college was there, and a previous student of his came up, and I said, "Where do you study?" And they said, "I'm at this college." I'm like, "Oh, do you know Dr. So-and-so?" And they said, "Yeah." "How was this piano class?" And she's like, "It was great. I enjoyed it. It was a fun class, learned a lot." And I said, would you mind taking the sight reading test for me? I would love to like just see where your sight reading is. And so the student sat down and she sight read, and she scored a 230 on the SASR. And so I actually texted my friend at the college, and I'm like, "Hey, do you remember this student?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember. She was a great student." And I said, "I just tested her sight reading and her score was 230. And he said, "Well, what does that mean?" And I said, "Well, that's pretty low. That's a very low score." He's like, "Well, she passed her scales and everything and went on." But it woke him up. And I actually had another student come over from the same school, and I'm like, "Hey, do you know this student? I'm just testing their sight reading score. Scored a 300, a little better. Still pretty low for having passed piano proficiency." And so he started wondering like, well, like maybe I should spend a little more effort with the sight reading. And Joel, you were thinking like, what is the main reason that we don't spend time sight reading and we spend more time with scales and chord progressions instead?
Well, I think it goes into a couple things, but one of the main things again is it's easy to measure, to say, oh, this student learned these scales, or they can play all these cadences, or all these arpeggios. And I think the issue that comes across is that a lot of times then, especially in academics, we tend to focus on what looks good on paper. And if we can say, oh, this sounds good, this sounds good, this sounds good, let's have them do all of this, when in reality, you get done. You go through that and you find that maybe it's not as practical for everybody to do that as it would be, for example, to learn to read and put that knowledge of piano into practice in a more practical way. So I think that's a big component of it. And that's one of the really amazing things I think about how the SASR works, and what it brings to the table is you can see those scores. It's not subjective, and every time you take it, you're coming in and getting. We'll dive a little bit more into this, but you're really getting an amazing sight reading practice method at the same time, which I think, as you've experienced, I know Aaron yourself has tremendously helped your sight reading, which was never one of your previous strengths.
So the tool itself is great to just measure your students like where they're at, but it's a phenomenal practice tool to improve their sight reading. We'll show you a little bit about how it works, and let's go ahead and just jump into that portion right now. I'm going to share my screen with you and just show you the test. Let's see, Josh, can you highlight Heidi's video and stop highlighting Joel's? Okay. So right here, I'm in Piano Marble, which to get to Piano Marble, you just go to pianomarble.com. And when you get there, you can create a free account or you can log into your account. Since I'm already logged in, I'm just going to click Launch App. And this takes me to the dashboard. And on the dashboard, I'll just give you a real quick idea of what this does. This shows me my practice history, like how many minutes I've practiced over the past months. This is a practice goal that I can set. Here's a practice streak, tells me how many days I've practiced. You can even see like a full report of, this is like a world leaderboard, and see who's practiced the longest streak in the world. We've got people way up here at the top, over 1,000 days without missing a single day of practice. Phenomenal. Leaderboards are really fun. But back here on the other thing, you have the library, which is where you can go learn thousands of songs. I think there's over 25,000 songs now. The method, which is like a reading course, and the technique, which involves, it's basically the same thing. It's a reading course, but involves more scales, chords, arpeggios, harmonization, transposition, that sort of thing. So your students are well-rounded. But over here, this is what we're focusing on today, and that is the sight reading test, your SASR. And the way you start this test is so simple. It doesn't matter where you are. You could be a doctoral student, or you could be a student who's never played the piano before. You just click Start the Test, and you have different levels. You can say, all right, I want to start this from professional level, which starts you at level 13. The beginner will actually start you in level 1. And I will warn you about this. The beginner test is different than any of these other 3 tests. These 3 tests here are kind of smart tests. They will go around how well you perform and jump you to different levels. The beginner test starts at the very beginner, and it will go through 1 level at a time. So if you have students who are intermediate, don't push them to the beginner test. Just go straight to the intermediate. I'm going to click on the intermediate, and you can see.
I can't see your screen very well from mine.
Are you able to see my screen, Josh?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, cool. Right here, you can see I have 8 seconds left to look at this piece. It pulled a level 2 song out here, and I can just look at this or practice it. Once I get to 0, it gives me a count off
1,
and begins.
2,
and I'll go ahead and play some wrong notes for you. I'll do the first line perfect. And let's play an A here. Now there's 2 ways for the page to turn. This is one of them. You can actually set your page turning to be stationary as well. Notice some of the things at the top, like what level I'm working in, how many strikes I have, my highest score, my lowest score. So I'll just point out really fast some things here. You can see that I actually played an A instead of a G, but everything else I played perfectly, and I got a 99% on this test. So what this test then does is it takes me from 1A, and it skips, sorry, it was 2A, it skipped 2B, 2C, and jumped me right to 2D. So when I click on the continue button, what that does next is it pulls out a sheet of music that I've never read before, and it shows me 20 seconds I can practice it. And now let me go ahead and get a strike for you. Oh, look at the score too. So you can see my score is at 219. I'm going to try to read the song at about 75%.
1, 2, set, go.
I miss those notes there. Miss that note. Miss that note. Got a loose. let's see how I did on this one. Oh, I did it, 79%, which I needed to get an 80% to pass this level. You can see which notes I missed. When you hit an 80, 81, I don't know what it does to your brain, but students, so when they get to a level that's difficult for them and they're just barely able to pass it, they enter this just exciting like video game type feeling, and it is intense. They're highly focused on trying to read the song well. I have strike one. And so what happened is you notice this 2C now went down, sorry, 2D went backwards to 2C. So now it's going to take a slightly easier song and give it to me. And if I pass that, then I can move forward again to the next level. My current score is 270. And so you can kind of see, like if that student I said scored like a 220, 230, that they are not quite reading this level of music. What should you be able to read when you pass your piano proficiency? Those are some questions that I'd like to get into, like what should a piano major be reading? What should your students who are 6 and 7? I had a 7-year-old who was sight reading at an 800 level. And I had a high schooler who was reading at a 400 level. The question that I have is, why is this significant? What is the significance of giving a score? Let me start on this, and maybe we can have Joel be highlighted back on here.
Yeah.
IDs.
So there's a couple of things that I think are really valuable about this. So just as a quick high level kind of overview of what you just saw there is essentially what the SASR is doing is it's an intelligent test that is taking your scores that and the feedback from what you are playing, and then it's using that information to determine whether it should give you something harder or something easier after that. And so that's what that 80% mark is, to say, well, if you're scoring above an 80%, then the next piece you get is going to be a little bit harder. If you're scoring below 80%, then we're going to give you something a little bit easier. So this is important for a couple of reasons. One is then, as you're taking the test, it's intelligently searching for where is your threshold for sight reading at. And so that's how we are able to generate an accurate SASR test score or sight reading test score every time. But I do want to mention something else that's really interesting about this, and that is that when you're taking the SASR test, because it's actively searching for your sight reading level, that means it's going to be giving you sight reading excerpts to read that are challenging but not overwhelming as you are practicing, right? Well, I can't really think of a better way to practice your sight reading than to have these pieces coming at you that are perfectly aligned with your sight reading level, but they're still new ones. You never know what's coming next, right, in that test. So I gave Aaron an analogy the other day of, it would be similar to like if you wanted to try to replicate this in real life, you would have to have a stack of music probably this tall of everything from very early beginning music to highly advanced. And you'd have to sit your student down and pull something out of the pile and set it down. And everything in that pile, by the way, would have to be perfectly ordered from easiest to hardest. And then you'd have to have them sit there and play it. And then you'd make a call of whether you think they did a good job or not. And then you'd put that piece back and either pull up something harder or something easier. So you could see how, like, in the real world, it just would not be practical, right? And everything inside of the SASR is essentially kind of doing that, but automatically, and it's all part of the thing. So I think that is a really interesting thing. And I might mention quickly too, we had run some experiments when we were first starting the SASR, and we had a particular student, her name is Miracle, who lives in our area. And she was taking piano lessons for a long time at another studio. And her mom was a family friend, and she was talking to me one day, and she said, Miracle is just really struggling. It just feels like she's been plateaued with her piano skills for the past couple of years. And I think at the time she was about 16 years old. And so I said, well, let's try an experiment. I said, I want to see what would happen if Miracle takes a SASR test every single day for 30 days. And so we made a plan to make that happen. They have a keyboard at home and an iPad and stuff that she could do that. So that's exactly what we did. We challenged Miracle to take a SASR test every day for 30 days, and let's see what happens. And what the result was is her scores went from about a 250, which as Aaron mentioned earlier, that's kind of a low score. Like a 250 means
About a level 2, like in your
level
reading
2.
books. Yeah,
Yeah.
like a method book.
That's right. Yeah. And she went from a 250 to a 370 by the end of that 30 days. So
This is high level 3.
yeah, high level 3. So yeah, that's more than a level increase in her sight reading. And we're not talking about performance. Like she could perform level 5 and 6 pieces pretty well, but she could not read anywhere close to that. And to see her reading go in such a massive change in such a short amount of time was extremely encouraging. And I think that it's encouraging for several reasons. One, we had a tool where we could actually measure that progress, right? And I can't underscore how valuable that is, especially if you're in like a classroom or you're teaching group piano. But also the fact that it gave Miracle a way to see herself how far she had come, because she couldn't really see that her reading was getting much better, but the test scores indicated that she really was, right? And so it really also shows to me as well that doing that SASR is not only an amazing way to assess sight reading, but it's a probably even a better way to practice sight reading, in my opinion. And that's, I think the first time I've seen anything in all my years of teaching music that really gets to the heart of the problem of sight reading and how to address it in a very straightforward way that just automatically helps that journey come along. And I know that's a very difficult thing to teach one-on-one. A lot of teachers struggle with that. And that's something that we found that this really takes out all that mystery of teaching that sight reading and really gets them moving forward on it.
One of the things is motivation. Students are it's hard to motivate students to want to learn to sight read because they don't see the progress, like Joel was mentioning. It's such a slow progress, you don't see it. But if you can have a tool that measures growth, then you can actually sit down and set goals to improve it. And I think this is probably the most significant thing that comes out of this is you can set a goal. And now you may be better at teaching sight reading than another teacher, and you wouldn't even know it until you actually sat down and looked like, why is this student's sight reading score so much higher than another? Well, maybe it's because this professor came up with a magic solution to improve their student sight reading. Or maybe they focus on that a little more. And the SASR is amazing for helping you find your students' level and setting a goal to improve it. Now, we'll talk a lot about some of those. We do have some questions coming in. I know some people wanted to know, let's just read that first question, which is, by the way, if you open the chat window, there is a link to the agenda. And I need to show you this agenda really fast so that you know what you guys have. And then we'll go through some of these questions really quick. So let me share my screen and just walk through this agenda. Back to the agenda. Okay, so when you open the agenda, you'll see that you have these links here with some really cool resources that will answer all of these questions. There's so many things that we can't answer in just one session like this. But we do have some special offers that we've never offered before. This offer expires on, I believe this is Friday, Joel. And what it is you get, there's a teacher training and a certification course. We're gonna do that for $25. What this teacher certification training course does is it walks you through how to effectively use Piano Marble with your students, including like how to upload your own music into Piano Marble. Like you can even have your students learning your songs that you want them to learn. You can download stuff from MuseScore, put it in there. This is a really, really good way to not have to figure out everything on your own. It's just like a handheld course, we'll walk you through it, how to do it. So if you want to do that, you just click on that link and then start the course. This is a subscription to the software, which is $110 for the year. It's 50% off for the next 2 days. Joel had asked me, hey, is this just for the teachers? I said, well, we really don't know who goes in and collects that. So if you have students that like want to take advantage of that and you already know they want to do this, then in the next 2 days, they're welcome to go in there, click that link and purchase the code at your price.
Let me just mention that that's not a offer that we normally put out there. It's not a public offer, in other words. So if you,
we've never offered it for that price, but why are we doing it?
yeah, well, I mean, one is like, we would like to help you be able to get a chance to get in there and really check it out. And by the, anyway, so that price is something, like I said, we normally don't offer. And that's why we're just doing it for a limited time as well. So just make sure if you follow, you'd have to follow that link to get the deal is.
So how do they do that? They just click on this, they follow the link, and then it brings them to
that
this page. How come it doesn't say $50?
So if you look on the link, there's a promo code. It's or a coupon code. It's MTNA 2020. It's back on the doc.
Right here.
Right there. Use that coupon code in the shopping cart. So you'd go to checkout and then use that code and
add it to my cart.
Yep.
And then from here, it still says 110.
Yeah. So then go to your cart.
Can you get 2 or 3 codes?
You can.
Oh, that's cool. So those codes, let's say if I wanted to buy like 2 years, would they just stack up so I could actually get this like for the next 5 years at that price?
You could do that. Yeah.
And then I click add to cart.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I wanted to get it for some students.
Go to view cart.
Then view cart. So when I get to view carts, then it will ask me for the code.
That's right. Over there where it says coupon code.
Okay, so then I just type in MTNA 22, apply the code. And so then I'd get like, oh, it looks like I got quantity 9. So you'd want to change your quantity. You can change your quantity right here too.
That's
but
right.
The code actually applied and it took off whatever you decide. So yeah, that's really easy. Thanks for putting that together, Joel.
Yep.
It's also important to mention the certifications normally $70.
Yeah, the certification course is normally $75, and so we're doing the same thing for you guys with that certification course. I highly recommend it. Like, you guys are busy, you don't have time to figure out everything on your own. Some of you do like that, but if you're busy and you just need someone to walk you through, this could save you a ton of time and you do it right. This is merchandise. You probably saw my cool little shirt here. I don't know if I'm on. I just bought this one from that merchandise store. It's pretty cool. But you guys can get some merchandise if you want. We thought we'd throw that link in there since it's a new thing. Down here, there's a getting started guide. You guys have questions like, how do I hook it up to my computer? Just go to the starting guide and it will walk you through step by step how to get started. This includes how you would get students started and how to link them to you as a teacher. It's really easy guide. It shows you pictures. Well, the pictures aren't popping up because it's still loading. There they are. And then you just follow the steps on getting started. And you guys can go through that anytime you want there. That's why we provided these for you. Resources, amazing resources here. List of resources like what equipment should I get? Where do I get it? Which is better? What recommended pianos are there? On some online things that I put together for you. Group piano ideas, like how to teach in a group. those are very, very cool ideas. Teaching in a group with technology is phenomenal. Like you will never, ever, ever go back to teaching class piano or group piano without the technology once you try this. And then uploading your own content, piano marble costs, video project ideas, and so forth. So let's go over to the questions that you guys had in the conversation. Let me stop sharing my screen. And somebody had asked, first on the list is, can we see? Oh.
One.
Can you hear my piano talking, Joel?
One.
Yeah, it's just making a little noise.
Zero.
It's actually an IP address. So my piano talks to me. I think we should show Heidi's video really quickly because somebody asked, can you do this with an acoustic piano? And the answer to that question is, Josh, can you spotlight that one and unspotlight Joel's? So yes, I'm doing this on an acoustic piano. However, don't be tricked because my piano has a piano scan on it. And what that is it's a little strip underneath the key bed here that has little laser lights that you put on. You can put it on any piano, any acoustic piano. And so when you strike a note, it sends a signal just like a digital piano would, and you can just plug it straight into your computer. Can you do it with a microphone? I know there's some apps like JoyTunes that kind of work for that. They're not perfect. We are actually developing a microphone connection so that you will be able to do it with your piano, and it should be quite a bit better than any product on the market. That's a very tricky thing. But if you were learning something like some I don't know, a Rachmaninoff piece, it will not be able to get all of those tones. And so it will never be, I don't think it'll ever be the professional way to do it. Either get a piano scan to turn your acoustic piano into a digital piano, which by the way, that's on the agenda that I gave you. It talks about the piano scan in the recommended pianos area. Alternatively, you can do something like this.
Update in progress.
And connect it with this piano. So let me just show you really quickly. If I do it with this one, and I don't know, Joel, can you still hear my microphone?
Do you want this one?
Yeah,
I walked away from my other computer.
Just fine.
I'll try to just speak up for you guys. But you can see I have an iPad connected here. And I've connected it with this little guy. This is where's camera? We can go to this camera. This one is for an iPad. They make several kinds. This little dongle has a USB-C, sorry, that's a USB-A to a, what is that thing called?
Lightning.
The lightning cable. Now, if your piano is, or if your computer or device actually takes a USB-C instead, like these are the newer ones, the USB-C, they also make little dongles that do the same thing. They go to USB-C instead of the lightning port. I don't know how well you can see that. It's a little hard. And so what I do is I just plug it in to my piano. Now, some people are like, well, where does that plug in on your piano and what kind of connections do you need? On this piano, you can see the connections are right here. I don't know if you can bring that camera down there or not. Did it just flip upside down? You can see there is a USB port that you can use, or on the back, there is MIDI in and MIDI out. So different cables. When you're looking at your setup, this is the first thing you want to deal with is how do I connect my piano? I think the thing flipped over. There we go. So how do I connect my piano with my computer. And that can be a little bit tricky, but on your spreadsheet, let me just share that with you and just walk you through your, let's see, share screen. And where did my,
Your system has updated successfully.
here we go, here's the agenda. So on the agenda, I think, Joel, the setup, the guide that we had, I actually gave you a link to different videos that walk you through those. And right down here, nope, this tells you how to link to, yep, here it is, connecting your piano to your computer. So if you're connecting it to a PC or a Macintosh, you can have the installation instructions just right here in your doc. If you're connecting it to an iPad, there is a little video here that you can open and it'll walk you through your different connections. If you need help with that, just know at the bottom of your agenda, there is a phone number and an email address. You can call or you can email us there. This other university professor that I was talking about, he actually decided to start testing all of his students. And I probably spent an hour on the phone with him, just helping him with different things and his different questions. So we are very willing to help you answer your questions and get you started, because we would really like you to be able to implement this next year in your course. And some of you will jump on and do it this semester. So we're very, very willing to help you out. One of the questions somebody else asked, so stop sharing. They had asked, can we see some examples of some harder music, I believe? And then somebody said they're from the Philippines. Hello. Let's see. Can't see the entire picture. I'm only seeing the upper right quadrant. I'm not sure what that one was. Can you use this with acoustic pianos? Not yet, but soon you will. Somebody also asked, what does it work with right now? It works with Chromebook. It works with iPad. It works with Windows computers and Mac computers. It will soon be available for iPhone. Actually, it's starting to work on iPhone already if you wanted to do that. I can show you how that works. You can't right now take the SASR, but I believe in a couple months, the SASR will be added in on the iPhone. You might think like, how in the world is it going to work on an iPhone? Well, there's two ways to do that. The music actually scrolls sideways, so it's big enough. You don't have to have bionic eyes. And it works a lot better than I ever imagined. Give you an example of this song. We'll go fly a kite. You can see there's a little keyboard. You could either do it with your thumbs, or you can do it with your piano. Actually plug in and check this out. So now I just play it on my piano. So pretty cool. You can even change the size of your screen. Oops, not in mid play. I think you have to get out of that, hit the keyboard. And so you can even have a much larger screen, like if you're just trying to record a video. So lots of cool things with that. And things are changing very quickly. A lot of new things that we're putting in.
Aaron,
yeah.
so there's some questions about what is being actually assessed. I don't know if you want to take that question, having to do with like notes and rhythms versus are we assessing dynamics, articulations? Those are some of the questions I'm seeing.
Okay, that's a great question. Another question would be, why do we assess what we assess? What's assessed are two things. Number one is the right notes. Number two is the right rhythm. You assess the note, you assess the rhythm. Why doesn't it assess anything else, like staccatos, like how short are your staccatos, or dynamics? Why doesn't it assess whether you played this soft or loud. Well, all of those other things they are subjective to musicality. And I found that when you start assessing musicality, then you start creating robots. Then they think piano means has to fit in a certain range, or staccato has to be a certain type. And we are very, very concerned with keeping musicality in the lessons. So we only assess the notes and the rhythms. And a lot of people wonder, well, does even the rhythm, does it make it so that you're playing very squarely? A lot of people think practicing with a metronome does that to you, but in my experience, it does not. In fact, it gives you more freedom to express yourself better because you know exactly where the beat is, and it helps you kind of pull that rubato more evenly and more musically. So that's the reason why we only assess those two things. So great question though. Thanks for that question. Somebody did want to see, what does the advanced music look like? Unfortunately, I'm not good enough to show you. Like, I mean, it is so, I remember this story. In fact, let me share a quick thing with you. That not everybody gets to see what's behind the hood and how the SASR works. So let me just walk you through this. This is kind of like a hidden secret we don't share with anybody. So, oops, I'm not minimizing. I want to share my screen. Okay, don't tell everybody these things. This is for your eyes only. I think I have in a slideshow. Okay, so some fun facts about the SASR. When you get onto the dashboard, this is actually your most recent score, not your best score, just so you know that. Let me skip along here. Oh, this is interesting. Give me a little pointer. Your score will range from 100 to the highest score. A perfect score would be a 1900. There are 18 levels, and if you score 100 on everything, you can actually score a 1900. A 100 is the lowest score you can get. So if you do a song and you get a 101, you're really bad. The 100, yep. Here's if you get whoops, where did my thing go? This 767, we talked about this. What that means is you're reading at a level 7, actually a kind of a high mid level 7. This is really cool. We have benchmarks, like if you're a piano teacher, then you should be reading here, but a lot of piano teachers are reading way higher and some are reading lower. But we do give a benchmark that helps you kind of identify kind of what the average population is doing. How many levels are there in the SASR? Like, how does it work? This is kind of a cool thing to know. Like that 768 score, what that actually means is you are reading a mid-level, this like 7C, this mid-level at an 80%. And so that's your score right there. That's basically the easy way to say what do these scores mean. How many levels are there? Well, there are 18 levels. Like the beginning has 3 up to level 6, intermediate. The stuff that I just can't get to, I really can't get past level 10, 11, 12. But then some people can get all the way up into this level 17. We've watched the best readers in the world do this. Phenomenal. Like, it'll blow your mind what some people can read. There are subdivisions, 5 of them, A, B, C, and D. So if there are 18 levels deep and each one has 5 sublevels, that's a lot. That's 90 levels of music. And they are all graded through a very complicated process where each one is very well graded. So you know that level 15A is going to be slightly easier than 15B. It's a hard thing to do, but it's really cool how we've done that. Over here, what's the world record? In I think it was about 5 years ago, the Korean pianist held the record at 1775. And it was about a year later, a doctoral student took the record at 1851. That's a funny story with this one. The student came in and was bragging to their teacher that they held the world record. And the teacher's like, I'm tired of hearing this student. So they took the test, couldn't beat the student, came back a second time, and then finally did, posted their results on Facebook. Well, it was a master's student who came in and took over the world record at 1861 until I was at an MTNA conference. I think it was in Spokane, Washington. And this kid in high school, a sophomore in high school, got up. It was the craziest thing. He was like reading his music kind of like this. And I couldn't believe it. Like, the kid could read anything. And there were just a huge group of people who just came and started watching this as he started getting into that high level 18. He'd set the world record at 1882, just smashed every other record. It was a phenomenal experience, a sophomore in high school. The how do I start the test? We talked about this already. And that should give you, oh, there's one more thing that I did want to share with you. How do songs advance? I don't know if anybody wants to know this. If you don't like how things work, then fall asleep for 2 minutes and I'll explain this really fast. So remember I said this one score here. If you start, let's say at 17C, it has a bucket of like 100 songs, and then you sight read the song. It puts a check mark on it and says, never give this song to that student again. They're done reading this. We want to give them new stuff. And that student then plays. If they score a 100%, it will jump them up 5 sublevels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it will take their next song out of 8C. If they only score an 80%, it'll go to just the next level. If they score 90%, it'll jump 2 levels. If they get a 96, it'll jump 3 levels. And of course, 5, they get there. However, if they score under 80%, it actually jumps them backwards. If they score under 60%, it jumps them back 2. Under 30%, it jumps them back 3. And so that's just something that nobody knows how it works. They just know if I do well, I get a harder piece. If I do badly, I get an easier piece. Does anybody have any questions about any of the specifics?
Really quick, I have something to, because I think a lot of people do want to see someone really advanced doing this. We actually took a video of Tracy Sheehan taking the SASR. I don't think it's up yet, but it will be soon. She's one of the best sight readers in the world, and it's hilarious to watch her. It's so fun. So as soon as it's up, we'll send you guys the link to it because it's awesome.
Okay, that'd be fun to watch. By the way, you notice I got my Scale Ninja shirt. The Scale Ninja is something that you guys can do in the software. There are, I think, 5 Scale Ninjas in the world for the advanced one. I wanted to challenge anybody here. I know we have a bunch of people who are piano, just amazing at piano, and some of you have very fast fingers. I would like to challenge you to go into the SASR and do the Scale Ninja. Let me show you really quick what it is. And I'd just love to hear from you. Like, send me an email. I think everybody has my email address. Let's go over into the library, which is where you're going to find it. Oh, and I unplugged my piano. I've got to plug that back in. And let's go to, I'm going to end that SASR test and go to the library. And let's see, I know we have like 330 people in this group. So I might regret this, but if anybody can become a Scale Ninja, I will send you a t-shirt, a Scale Ninja t-shirt. But it's got to be in the Pro. So let me just type Scale Ninja and show you. Right here, there's a beginner one, which is what I usually use like for my freshman students. The intermediate one I'd use for my freshman second semester. And then I'd say like this advanced one for my piano majors. The Scale Ninja Pro is the one I use for my master's and doctoral students. The way it works, you can see there's a leaderboard. So if I click on the leaderboard, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Scale Ninjas in the world so far. And there are 1, 2, 3 black belts, and then a bunch of brown belts, and then it goes down from there. What does it take to become a black belt or a ninja? All of the scales have to be perfected at a very high speed, under 5 seconds, 4 octaves. So you can see like the C major scale. I rank here at 4.13 seconds. And you can see Tracy Sheehan, she was my main competitor here, which is kind of cool to see that. How does the Scale Ninja work? Well, let me open the C major scale and just show you. So if I hit the practice button, I will play my scale. So I got that done in 9.145 seconds. So what I want to do is I want to do it again and see if I can go faster. So that one only took me 6.3. I sat there and played this scale. Well, you can see how many times I've played it up at the top right. I've played this 563 times. Insane. I was up at like 2 a.m. Like, I remember waking up one morning, I'm like, oh, I can get this to a ninja. I know I can. I think that was like the E flat scale. I'm going to just show you how fast you have to get it under 5. It's really fast. Oh, I didn't get under 5. I got 2.5, but I hit 2 wrong notes. So I'd have to do that one again. But I have been very close to 4. Anyway, this is a like super, super cool way to teach scales. And if you're tired of teaching scales, honestly, just have them do like the video that walks them through how to do their fingers. I've made videos on every one of these. This is a really cool resource for you guys, and it is in your agenda. So on the agenda, you see the Scale Ninja. You can learn more right there. Okay, so that being said, let's go back to your guys' questions. Anybody, Joel, did you see any more questions that we missed?
There should be some more in the chat there.
Can I use my laptop rather than an iPad? Absolutely, yes. And that's what I'm using here. And my iPad's over there, or my iPhone. You can use any of one of those. Somebody said, thank you for creating this. Just pick a piece and play it. I wonder if we should, do we have that hand raising tool? I don't know if people can raise their hand and ask questions. If I miss it, can I watch it later? Yeah, we are recording this. So we'll send out a video recording of this to other people. Was there anything else that anybody else had to add or questions that you have?
I do.
Yes.
Hey, I don't know if you guys hear me.
Yeah, Josh can try to highlight you so we can actually watch you if your video's open.
My video's not open, but let me just ask a question real quick. What does it take to set up an acoustic piano for to connect it to the piano marble and the piano sight reading tests? Thank you.
So yeah, that's called a piano scan. Let me share my screen with you and show you exactly how to do that. Let me click on share. Go over to the recommended pianos here, and you click on this. You can see the top one is for like some of my beginner students. I'll say you don't have a piano or a keyboard. I'll just have them go buy a budget keyboard. And this is a really good budget keyboard. It's only $139. There should be a picture popping up here. And at the bottom of this list, I go through my favorites, the ones that I've tested here, like a Williams Legato. But now we get into the digital piano world, which I really prefer digital pianos over little keyboards, but they work. I'd say more of my students actually have little keyboards than digital pianos anyway. But down here at the very bottom, my favorite digital piano is the Yamaha Clavinova. I think it's the 735. This one says 635. It's now 735 is their next model. But then you have this thing that says, if you're looking to connect your acoustic piano to your computer, PianoScan is one solution that I have tested thoroughly and use regularly. I highly recommend it. You just click on that thing and it'll walk you through what that is and how to do that. By the way, this is what it looks like, is they just put this little strip underneath your keypad that touches nothing. Like it doesn't interfere with notes. I know Josh Wright just got one installed on his piano. His main concern was, I've got this $100,000 Steinway. I don't want to mess it up. And so after talking to the installers, he realized, okay, this is great. So we put a PianoScan in his piano and it works phenomenal. How much does it cost? I'm pretty sure. Well, that link's not working.
Last I checked on QRS, it's 1,800 plus.
1,800. I think it depends on where you live and who will install it. But I think $1,500 is the last price that somebody gave me. 1,800 is a little bit on the higher end that I've seen. Of course, things are going up too. Inflation's could cause a change in that price. But anyways, it's around $1,500 to $1,800 to install it. And they install it for you. It's professionally installed. Great question. Does anybody else have a question?
Just to save time, and earlier in the chat, somebody was asking if the accuracy of notes and accuracy of rhythm are weighted equally in the exam.
Not quite equally. The accuracy of notes, I forget the exact algorithm, but it took years to kind of work through changing that algorithm so that it felt really good. So the best way to really feel how it works is to get in there and just start using it. If you've got a digital piano or a keyboard, I recommend getting in there today and just setting it up. If you know you're going to do it and you want to save some money, get in there and just take advantage of that 50% off offer today. And then we'll help you. We'll walk you through the setup. Feel free to just get that now, and then we'll set up a time with you where we can help you get it started. I know a lot of universities.
I saw someone asking. Oh, sorry. I saw someone asking if it's if it works with Chromebook, and it does. So
Let's work with
yes.
Chromebook.
And I'm reading through some other ones, so I'll let you know if I find some other guys.
If you can find any of them, that'd be great. While I'm answering it, somebody asked, like, they know universities have put their curriculum into Piano Marvel for their students so that they don't have to grade them, and it all goes into their grade book. How do you do that? It's possible. We'll help you do that. There's some really good documentation on the form that I gave you, if you want to just read it on your own, or you can just set up that course for $25 and it walks you through, and we actually help you build it for you, with you. And the best way to do that. What about, yes, Leonetta, Bibi, you have a question? No. Okay, what are my favorite things to use in Piano Marvel? I would say the sight reading is really cool. The sight reading ninja is very cool. The sight reading boot camps is very cool. They're all very different. It's impossible to learn everything at once. So that's why we focus on just the sight reading right now. My absolute favorite thing to do, though, in the software is learning their pieces with the minced slicing. I'll show you what that is really quickly, and then we'll wrap things up. is my favorite, because teachers work way too hard to produce the same result they can do in a tenth the effort. And this makes me giggle every time I start a new student on this, just because like this shouldn't be this easy. So let's say you wanted to go to Arabesque and you're teaching a student Arabesque. Well, the best way to do that is to split it up into learning segments. So Piano Marvel does that. And some teachers are starting to call chopping your pieces up into learning segments as piano marveling it. Hey, go piano marvel that song. Meaning go in there and learn your song in like a professional way where you go into the mint slicing and you can see that it's just a right hand. You're going to work on just this right hand at a very slow speed. Once you pass it off, then you can see you get a trophy for that. And now you're 28% of the way done. So I love telling my students, go in there and learn your new piece. I don't have to break this apart and tell them anything. And then by the end of the day, each night, I want you to just send me a text and say, where'd you get to by today? And so they work, they know what to do. I've already trained them how to go in and just earn 1 star at a time. Now they do measures 1 to 10. Now they do 1 to 18. Now they do measures 19 to 24 in the B section and so forth. And it's just systematically split up. So I have to do almost no spoon feeding. If they don't know a note, they can click on it. It shows them what it is. They work with a metronome. They can highlight sections. There's a practice thing in here where it'll wait for you to get the right note as you're going through that. Shows you which notes you played wrong, or you can unhighlight it and then you can click the play and it'll give you a score for that section. So now they work with the metronome.
Go.
And their rhythm is always so good after they work with the metronome part. And I'll miss one note. And so a student will look at this and they'll be like, oh, I got so close. I can fix that. I can do that. And they'll do it again and again and again until they have that section perfect at that slow speed. And then they move up to the next speed. This is probably my favorite thing. So as soon as you get a handle on maybe that sight reading, I highly recommend getting into the library and start using this professional practice tool with your students. All right, so if we don't have any more questions, we'll go ahead.
I do have one small question. I'm so sorry.
Yes, no, that's good.
Piece is not, let's say you want to work a student to work on a piece that it is not in your database. Are we teachers able to send it so that you guys input it and it is workable like you just showed the Arabesque?
We do have people who actually put your requests into the software for you. Alternatively, you can put it in yourself. And I think, let me share my screen and show you where you find out how to do that. I mean, part of this, this thing that we do here, this training for $25, this walks you through how to input the music yourself. But if you're just looking down here and you just want to learn and just figure it out, where is uploading? Isn't there an uploading your pieces here? Yes, upload your own content. Just click on this link. And this walks you through exactly how to do it step by step. I will tell you personally, I usually go to MuseScore and see if MuseScore has a copy of it that I can download. And
what does that look like,
I
Aaron?
just put it in. Okay, so if I go to MuseScore here.com and I run over to, let's say there's a Bach Partita, or let's do a Bach invention. All the Bach invention's already in there. That's just an idea of like how you would find something in MuseScore and upload it to Piano Marvel. So you find the one you want. Let's say this is the one you want. You like this one, and then there's a bunch, some of them are trash and you just have to go look around for better ones. But you can create a free account. I just have a free account here. And let's see. How do I get back to my, this is new. I think you go to favorites, no, share.
Go back, Aaron.
Did I click on the wrong thing?
Yeah. And then to scroll down, you see like that one right there, the Invention 4 by J.S. Bach. Like all those,
Yeah.
they're good. They're public domain.
Okay. Oh, gotcha. Okay, so now I grab this one, and then I will just download one of two things. It'll ask you, do you want MuseScores? You can download it in MuseScore, but then what you really need is the MIDI and the XML. You grab those two files and you just upload those into Piano Marble, and then you can actually chop it and mince it into segments for your students. Alternatively, you can just ask Piano Marble to do it, and we'll upload those for you. We're trying to get a lot of more music in, so we've got a lot of people who are adding music. But excellent questions, like how to put in that, and then like stuff that you just use and that's different than anyone else. It allows you to customize it and do your own thing with your students.
Should also
Can I
mention
jump
they can
in?
Find
Yeah.
Could I jump in with a question? Angela here. I
Angela.
don't mean to belabor the acoustic piano, but I do want to ask another question. I understand that JoyTunes isn't as ideal as one might want. I'm just super excited about this. And I have an acoustic piano, and I've considered getting a digital, but how soon might you be able to get it to an acoustic piano that doesn't involve this $1,500 to $1,800 strip? Or are you willing to go there?
That is the magic question. When is it coming out? I ask that question every single morning. I go into my email and I look, is my beta test ready? And it's not there today, and I hang my head. When I actually expected yesterday to get a version that I would get to test, but I've heard that I'm not going to get it until next Tuesday. So when that happens, I'm going to be testing that and seeing how well it does. We can't give any promises because it's so involved, and we're approaching it at a very different solution, a way more professional way of doing it than anybody else has ever tried. We've already put in $500,000 into building this feature. So when it comes out, it'll be amazing. I'm hoping that on iPad and iPhone, the first version will be out in April. That's my hope. So we're like a month and a half away.
That would be amazing. That would be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I am like, it's like my very top priority right now. Joel's too, and Josh's. Like every day they work on trying to finish it up, and it's like 98% complete. Great question. Heidi, you said.
I was going to mention they can go to the features part of our website to find how to upload music as well, instead of
That document that I gave you, it actually has a link to the features help menu, and so you can just find everything in the agenda that I gave you on with more details that walk you through it. Great question. Okay, well, if we have nothing else, I guess we'll just keep in touch with everybody via email. I'm going to send you a video link to this webinar, and we'll get you guys started with this. Go ahead and get your account set up, and then we'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody. Thanks for helping with everything.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.